Hello, I'm Randy Gerber, and welcome to our podcast, The Founder Ride. Today's discussion is about converting or transitioning from being an operating owner to an investor owner of your business. And with that in mind, where am I in the ride? And I am in the acceleration stage. I'm feeling really good about where we're going. I can see things moving along, and it's fun. And arguably, the more we accelerate, and I'm taking one step closer to being an investor owner of the business versus an operating owner of the business. So let's talk about the definition here of both a little bit. Operating owner, this is a person, you're working in the business day to day, you're part of the operations, you're part of the solution, and you're the owner as well. And this is where most entrepreneurs start, that they're forced into it. And there are some people who are always operating owners, where they've chosen for whatever reason through, maybe chosen from they like it so much they want to be. Some people choose it accidentally because they don't plan properly to become investor owners. And certainly you've heard of those businesses that there's no succession plan down the road because the entrepreneur never could figure out how to become an investor owner. As a generalization, I will say this so I don't forget to say it later in the podcast, that if you are able to successfully transition your relationship in the business to investor owner, your business is probably worth more money. You probably create more enterprise value. In my opinion, generally speaking, it's probably impossible to start the business as an investor owner. I think you have to start as an operating owner. But as time goes on, it's something you should try to transition to, in my opinion. And even within the idea of operating owner, I'll speak for myself on this, that I definitely started, like most of you, as an operating owner. And what that meant is I touched every part of the operations. As time's gone on, I definitely want to transition more to investor owner, but there's an element of the business I want to be involved in every day. I don't want to operate it necessarily, but I want to be engaged in the business on a tactical basis, and that's primarily for my own health, primarily for my to be relevant, be active, and for me specifically, relationships I've developed over time are really important for me to maintain, and that's a forever thing, or at least as long as I'm alive. The goal, though, of most businesses should figure out how to transition to an investor owner. What I mean by this is that the business's operations are not dependent on you, that you own the business kind of no different than you own a stock or a bond, where if you're buying a stock, if you're choosing to buy, as an example, Google stock or Alphabet stock, I guess, you make a decision about, what are my expectations for this business, what return do I want to get, and you routinely check on it and see how the stock's doing. And I think being an investor owner of a business can behave the same way, where you're getting some monthly financial reporting. There's some governance dynamics where you're involved with maybe every quarter, and you're involved possibly in some big strategic decisions, but you have no operational responsibility. I want to digress for half a second too and talk about the role and relationship of an investor owner. Sometimes people view that as an absentee owner, and I think that, if you become an absentee owner, that can be dangerous. In my mind, an absentee owner is somebody who just has nothing to do with the business whatsoever. It's really truly buying Alphabet stock and just never looking at your statements, never looking at how it does again. To me, that's dangerous for small businesses, for your business that you started. I think it's important to remain an investor owner in the business, where you're engaged at least in understanding what's happening financially. You understand where the business is going strategically. You may weigh in on the leadership as time goes on. And this is an important consideration, important thought process to engage in pretty early, because as you get older, your willingness to accept crap changes. Your willingness to accept stress, your willingness to deal with minutia, just your patience level goes down. And too many times I've seen businesses not do well because the entrepreneur, the owner, never got out of the operations, yet they're fatigued from the day-to-day minutia, fatigued from the tempo of the business, and they just don't handle things the way they used to. You've heard me say this in previous podcasts. I think it's your responsibility to all your stakeholders, again, your team members, your clients and customers, your family, to begin a process to transition from investor owner or operation owner to investor owner. And a question you may ask yourself, well, how do you do that? Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. It comes down to people. You need to hire people and the right people in the right seats. It's an evolution. Again, you've heard me say this before. And what are the seats on the bus? And frankly, you're going to acquiesce leadership eventually to somebody else. Day-to-day operational leadership, day-to-day strategic leadership, and frankly, this strategic leadership overall. And that's not an easy process, particularly for a first-generation entrepreneur. This does not happen overnight. It does sometimes for medical purposes, and those are always rough, and certainly would not recommend that path. That's that way to do it. The best way is to be thoughtful about this. Have a plan. Make it part of your strategy. Make it part of your annual planning. Make it part of where you're going with your team to literally transition to an investor owner. And it can happen in stages. You don't need to just draw a line in the sand and say, oops, tomorrow I'm going to be an investor owner and that's it. No, I think it takes time. And maybe speaking for myself, I'll get there someday where I really only want to be an investor owner. Hard for me to see that today, but I definitely want to get rid of a big part of the operational ownership for sure now, and we're working towards that. It's important to engage your leadership team around this and make sure that they're on board with it, understand where you're going. I think it's important to engage your spouse as well too, because it's definitely a change for them. Your relationship with the business will change and evolve. Your stress level will change and evolve. Don't surprise your spouse with this change. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it can happen if you're not careful. It's a big deal. I think those businesses that are everlasting, they're evergreen businesses when you can transition to investor owner, and it's candidly more fun. As always, thank you for listening. Enjoy your ride, and we'll talk to you in our next episode.